Introducing 4K at 120 frames per second, delivering our highest resolution and frame rate yet for incredible slow-mo.
And that's iPhone 16 Pro. These are the best iPhones we've ever made. Camera control and innovative features across photo, video, and audio. This is a huge step forward.
You know what that is? That's FOMO, fear of missing out. And you probably experience it right now after seeing all of the amazing photos and videos taken with the brand new iPhone 16 Pro and shared on social medias. And you probably think that this phone is so much better than your current phone, and this could be true, and that if you too had this brand new iPhone 16 Pro, you could right now be producing amazing content. But see, the thing is that your current phone is probably more than capable at also taking amazing content. Let me explain. Think about it. When you got that phone you currently have, wasn't it the best iPhone ever made? The one to take the most amazing photos and videos? And when you got it, weren't you excited about all you could do with it creatively? So what changed? Look, all I'm saying is that except if your iPhone is older than the iPhone 6S, you can probably do something cool with it. So you may have heard about the brand Moment. It's a Seattle-based company that came out around like 10 years ago. And at first they were only producing high-quality lens for smartphone. Since they've grown quite a lot, and now they sell tons of different equipment for filmmakers, photographers, content creators, like this mic right here. Now would probably be a good moment to talk about today's sponsors. Have you ever... Yeah, there is no sponsor. However, Moment did send me some of this gear. That being said, they have no say in this video. I'm probably sure they won't even see it. But I still like to thank them because the team at Moment is truly amazing, and you should definitely check out the kind of product that they have on their store. Okay, let's go. Let's talk about those Moment products for a bit. Take the lenses, for example. They're a great way to change the... It's a bit dark in here, no? Hold on a sec. Ah, that's much better. Like I was saying, with the help of a few accessories such as this Moment lens here and this Moment filter holder there, you can greatly impact the overall quality of your iPhone footage. So it resembles more the look of a cinema camera like this one, come here big girl, than a standard iPhone. Of course, to a certain extent. Take this iPhone 13 Pro, for example. It has 3 lenses, so you have the ultra-wide, digital lens, and the telephoto lens. So already you have different focal lengths for creative purposes. But now let's say you have a non-pro iPhone, which means you only have the ultra-wide and the digital lens. And you wish you had a telephoto for extra reach, and not to rely so much on digital zoom. And that's where the Moment 58 enters the room. You simply attach it to one of those Moment case, like this. And maybe you add a filter such as this VND plus mist to cut the light and add some diffusion. Now you simply have to set up your shot. And just like that, you have a focal length that's great for portraits or close-up. Then simply add a CinemaScope aspect ratio, maybe a bit of grain, and now suddenly you're making a film. As he looked deep into the empty void, he wondered, what would he eat for lunch? If you take a look at a cinema rig such as this one designed for the Canon R5C, which by the way is much smaller than a real cinema rig, you can see that it involves much more in the camera and the lens. Here at the core, I have a camera cage with different mounting points, so you can attach a top handle, an external monitors, an external microphone, an external battery, a bottom rail with a follow focus, and the matte box that holds filters and also act as a lens hood. Now, the goal of a cinema rig, other than looking cool for your clients, is to attach accessories that will make shooting easier and also address any weaknesses that the camera may have. For example, with the Canon R5C, it doesn't have internal ND, so I added the matte box with the filters. And when it comes to the internal battery, it's less than ideal, so I added an external battery. Now, do you know of any other camera that have some weaknesses? Now, out of the box, the iPhone, whether it's the iPhone 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, they all take great videos. And on top of that, they make it very easy to do so because you just press a button and the iPhone does the rest for you. But at the end of the day, it's still a phone with a small sensor and a small lens. And despite Apple increasing the size almost every year, there's still some limitation. Now, all iPhones have lenses with a fixed aperture. This means two things. Number one is that you cannot control the aperture to reduce the light hitting the sensor. And number two, despite those lenses having wide aperture such as 1.7, 1.5, well, since the sensor is so small, it cannot replicate a shallow depth of field, which is the separation between the foreground and the background. Now, Apple tried to replicate this with cinematic mode by adding a digital blur, kind of like portrait mode, but it didn't yield the best result. Staying on those lenses, most modern iPhone will have multiple lenses, which is great to capture a scene differently. That being said, all those cameras and lenses weren't born equal. For example, since the iPhone 14 Pro, the standard camera has a 48 megapixel sensor compared to a 12 megapixel sensor for the ultra-wide and the telephoto. On top of that, the standard camera has a lens with a wider aperture, which means you get the best quality. So you could technically only use that single camera, but it would kind of limit you with the available focal lengths. The second limitation is that the iPhone doesn't have a mounting point because it would simply ruin the design. But this means that out of the box, there is no way of mounting an iPhone on a tripod. Now you could say that stabilization has become so good lately that you could simply hold the phone. But for some shots, such as an establishing shot, it's much better when they're static. The third limitation is that the iPhone's microphone is good to make phone calls, but not so much to capture clean audio to mix into a film. And that's the idea behind a camera rig, is that you'll be able to mount accessories to overcome those limitations. This is your typical iPhone camera rig. At the core, I have a moment case for my iPhone 13 Pro, so I can attach the Moment T-Series lenses. Now, you don't necessarily need the Moment case because there are other manufacturers that propose the T-Series mount, such as Small Rig. Speaking of Small Rig, this is where the cage comes from, and you can see there are different mounting points, so I can attach accessories such as microphones and handles. On the right, I have a side handle here that I can quickly remove, thanks to this very easy quick release clamp. On the top, I have this Rode mic, video micro, I believe, which is great for capturing ambient sound. And generally at the bottom, I will have my Rode Wireless Go. And the benefits of having these two different kind of mic is that this one can capture ambient sound. And if I need to capture dialogues or speaking part, I will use the Wireless Go with a lav mic. Moving on, at the bottom here, I have a small mount for the tripod that I can also use as a secondary handle, very useful. And I can also quickly swap this system, and here I have a more compact rig, and this is thanks to a small on the system which is called O'Clock. I think it's Small Rig does it as well, and I have those everywhere. And the benefits of those is that I can quickly grab the rig and put it back, So this is horizontal, but let's say I'm shooting a vertical video, which is very rare, but it does happen. I can just quickly bring it like this and move it back. Now, let's say I need to move this to a tripod or a gimbal. I can swiftly remove this. And at the bottom here, I have a Arca Swiss plate, and this is great to move between different type of grip equipment. And of course, I kept the best for the last, and this is the Moment 58mm lens, which is great for portraits and close-up, like I said. And here I have a filter holder attached to the lens, and I can mount a VND filter. Now, let's talk about VND filters for a second and why they're so important. VND stands for Variable Natural Density Filter. A natural density filter, or NDs, reduce the light by a single value, so 2-stop, 4-stop, 6-stop, 8-stop, and so on. So if you wish to reduce the light by a desired amount, you need a full set of ND filters. But that can be quite cumbersome, especially if you're shooting outdoors when the light is constantly changing, because every single time you can have to swap that filter. And this is where a VND enters the game. A VND is basically two polarizers stuck together, and by rotating one on top of another, it reduces the amount of light passing through. But why would you want to reduce the amount of light hitting the sensor? Isn't more light the better? Yes and no. Now, have you ever noticed when you watch smartphone videos how everything looks a little bit choppy, it's all in focus and tack sharp, and you cannot see that pleasing motion blur that you are used to when you watch a film in the theater, for example? This is because the 180 rule isn't followed. What is the 180 rule? It goes back to old cinema camera. It used to be a half a disc that spun faster or slower, depending on the time of exposure and frame rates. It's the ancestor of the shutter speed. Now, on modern cinema camera, we'll still talk about shutter angle, whereas on iPhones and still camera, we talk about shutter speed. And the 180 value was set because it's the closest thing to produce the amount of blur that our eyes are used to. But that's not important right now. Look, all you need to remember is that you should always have your shutter speed at double your frame rates. If you're in North America, you're most likely shooting in 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second. So if you're in 24p, your shutter speed should be 1/40th of a second, or close. 150 is fine as well. If you're in Europe with the 25 frames per second, it should be 1/50th. And it's the same thing for slow motion. So if you're shooting slow motion at 60 FPS, your shutter speed should be 1/20th. And if you're shooting slow motion at 120p, 120 frames per second, then your shutter speed should be set at 2/40th of a second, and so on and so on. Of course, you can break that rule for creative reasons, but to achieve the standard motion blur, always keep your shutter speed double your frame rate. Now, are you still with me? Okay, good. Like I said earlier, on iPhone, all lenses have a fixed aperture, and it's generally a wide aperture, so 1.7 and 1.5. This means it lets a lot of light in. But now let's say shooting outdoors, and there's lots of light around. Once you set your ISO to the lowest value possible, since you have a fixed aperture, the only thing left really is the shutter speed so that your image isn't overexposed. So what you're going to have to do is crank up that shutter speed, and then you can have a normal exposure. But by doing so, then you're breaking the 180 rule because your shutter speed isn't double your frame rates. The 180 rule is essential in filmmaking. But if you are just starting out, I get it, it's a lot of information to process. But I'm going to show you a live example. You'll better understand. Think for a second. And welcome back. So this is the iPhone without any accessories. So no extra lens, no extra filter, and no extra microphone. So it's basically the quality you would get if you were to use the stock app and just press record. As you can see, I'm well exposed, I should be in focus, but the audio is what it is because it's using the internal microphone on the back of the iPhone. So you may hear some of the wind in the leaves or the background noise. Now, the second thing to pay attention to is watch I wave and see how there's like almost no motion blur on my hand. And I invite you to pause this video. This is because I am not following the 180 rule. Why? Well, we're outside right now, it's quite bright. So despite my ISO being at the lowest value possible, since I have a fixed aperture, the only way to get a normal exposure is to crank up that shutter speed. I think right now it's well above 1500. So now let's take a look at the iPhone footage with an extra lens, a filter, and a microphone. And this is the footage of the iPhone with the camera rig. Notice the shallower depth of field between me and the background. This is because I am using the Moment 58mm lens. Next, the audio is much cleaner. That's because I'm using an external microphone, which is on me. So despite the fact that I'm outside, there's still some background noise, but my voice is at the foreground of the audio. And finally, I'm using a VND filter to control my shutter speed or shutter angle. So as I wave, you have the correct motion blur. That's because I am following the 180 rule. My shutter speed is double my frame rates. Now, let's back, we'll go into the mountains and see what kind of footage we can get with this rig. So hold on for a sec. Like this. And I'll see you on the other side. Now, before we go, I want to talk about something. Do you notice you can actually see me through the windshield? Now, if you try to film in or around cars, you know what I'm talking about. The constant pain it is to get rid of all of those reflections. That's why you need a polarizer filter. It will help you get rid of some of those reflections, and it works in various cases, on car paints, windshields, window, even inside a home or a computers. On top of that, you can also use it for landscapes and seascapes to get rid of the reflection of water. So it's a very useful filter for both filmmaking and photography that's easy to mount on the iPhone with the Moment filter holder. Now, generally, a polarizer will work much better on windshield, but I don't know what that windshield is made of on this car, but I can never get full polarization across the windshield. I could only get it on this part and not this part. But still, I'm going to show you without the polarizer to get a better idea of how useful it is. Just hold on a second. And that's without the filter. As you can see, actually you can't, much more difficult to see through a windshield. That's it, now we can go. Some of you might say, wow, that's quite a big rig for just a phone, and it kind of defeats the purpose of, well, being a phone that can fit in your pocket. And you'd be right, but the thing is about camera rig is that nothing is written in stone. You can adapt them to whatever you need. If you are on a big production set, well, you can leave the big camera rig with all of the accessories. But now let's say that you are traveling or shooting in the streets and you want something more compact, well, you can just do that by removing the big cage, and then you just keep like the filter holder, for example, a VND, and maybe a small mic. Or even if you want to film in the car like I'm doing right now, I remove the big cage and I'm just using a phone clamp, the filter holder and the VND filter with a small mic on me. That way it's a much simpler package to fit inside a car, and I can also use a smaller suction cup to securely use my iPhone whether it's indoor or outside of the car. Totally unnecessary shot, but I thought it would be fun to do. Anyway, so if you think this is too beefy for your taste, well, no worries, just like stripped away from like the bare necessity. So remove the side handle, remove the top mic, the bottom tripod here, and then just really just grab the iPhone by itself. Now, as you can see, I still have a filter mounted on it, thanks to the Moment filter holder. This is a very useful tool. It's actually a single like clamp like this. It has like rubber on this side so it doesn't scratch the iPhone screens or the side of it, so it's very handy. And you simply just put it like this, and now you can put your VND filter just on the iPhone bare of like the microphone. So this is great if you are shooting B-roll or you're in the streets and you don't want to draw too much attention to yourself. But there are other filters that you can mount on your iPhone. For example, this is the Moment Cine Bloom 10%, which is similar to the Tiffen Black Pro Mist. And what it does is that it reduces the overall sharpness of footage and also bloom the highlight and bloom filter. Next, we have a Polarizer filter, which I've already talked about. So great for car paints, windshield, windows, reflections of water for landscapes and seascapes. It also makes the color bolder, so great filter. But this is made by Polar Pro and Short Stash, I believe. It's a mist plus PL, so it basically combines your mist filter and your polarizer filter in one filter. Now, if you have an iPhone 15 Pro or 16 Pro, Moment just released a new kind of filters which attach directly onto the back of the Moment case. They are much smaller, so it's easier to fit into a pocket. I'll include a link to a video or photo I can find because I don't have those filters for myself. But you should definitely check those filters out because they have a mist, they have a VND, they have a PL. So all of those filters they have tailored directly for the iPhone, which is something that you might be interested in. Okay, it starts to rain and getting dark, so let's go. So far, we've only talked about hardware, so extra lens, filters, camera cage, microphone, those kind of things. But to get better videos out of your iPhone, you also need to be able to control video settings such as your codec, your frame rates, your ISO, and your shutter speed. And you may have noticed that with the stock camera app, you cannot control all of those settings. The only thing you can do really is change the frame rates and press and hold to lock your exposure on your focus. So you'll need a third-party app to allow you to control those settings. Now there are tons of those apps on the App Store and I'm not going into a comparison of all of those. I've tried my fair share, but for this video, I'm going to show you some of those settings with the Moment app, but we'll do that inside because it starts to rain and it's getting really dark now, so let's go. So let's talk about settings. Now, like I said, you can't really do those settings with the default app, so you'll have to choose a third-party app. That's a bit low. Okay, let's check it up. Yeah, so you'll need a third-party app. There are plenty of them, like I said, and I think for this example, I'll use the Moment Pro app, since I've been using some of the Moment gear, to show you some of the essential settings you should definitely change to shoot better video. Now, how am I going to do this? I know. Will it work? It kind of does. Okay, great. So this is the Moment app, or Pro Camera by Moment. I can't remember the exact name. It is a paid app, but it is packed with awesome features. You have the ability to shoot videos with manual settings, photo in RAW DNG, also time-lapse, hyperlapse, night mode for stars, long exposure. So there is tons of features. It's a very fun app to have on your phone. Really quick, let's take a look at those settings. So on the left here, you have the default Rec 709. So this is your color profile. I often shoot in HDR Rec 2020, but if you do so, you need to make sure that you have a HDR display, such as a recent MacBook Pro or external display that supports HDR. Otherwise, you won't be able to properly edit in HDR. So let's go back to Rec 709. Moving on here, you have your resolution, 4K, which is great. Even though if you're going to shoot a video for social media and you think 1080p is fine, still shoot in 4K, you'll have the extra resolution and you'll be able to output in 1080p. Moving on, we have the frame per second here. So here I have 24 or 30p. I'm going to leave it to 24. Here on the right, I have extra settings. So I have my white balance that I can like lock in if I want. I can swap my autofocus here. Go to manual, and you can see when it greens, this is the focus peaking, which is very fun. Let's go back to, there we go. I'm gonna go back to my face, perfect. EV is for exposure compensation, so you can just reduce or increase the exposure. I would leave that to 0 because we are doing our exposure with the other settings, so the ISO, the shutter speed, and using VND. Here you have your ISO. This is going to go back to 34 because I have enough light. And here you have the shutter speed. By default, it says 1/50th of a second. Since I'm shooting 24 FPS, 1/50th is fine. I think you can tweak it to 1/48. Yes, you can, but you won't see much difference between 1/48th and 1/50th. Moving on here, you can swap the different lens, which won't work because I have a moment lens mounted on at the moment. But if you have an iPhone Pro, you can use the ultra wide, the standard, the telephoto. You can also use the selfie one. Hello. Okay, great. And here I like this button. Here you can actually swap and tell the app which moment lens you are using. So it won't matter for when you're shooting video, but when you shoot photo, it's actually cool because if you shoot a raw photo, Lightroom will be able to see that it was shot with the, let's say, the 58mm lens. So this is great. When I use the moment lens for photo, I always use the moment app because I have the ability to say which lens I'm using. Okay. Moving on here, you have like the different modes. So photo, video, slow shutter, time lapse. I'm going to stick to video. Then you can just record with the big red button, obviously. Those are for like your presets. If you have on preset for like 4K, 1080p, the different frame rate, that kind of things. And here you have another like cogwheel here for extra settings. The iPhone will go into vertical mode, but it's fine. I just want to show one setting. So let's keep those. There it is. Okay, so video settings here, I'm using Apple ProRes, which was introduced with the iPhone 13 Pro. It's a much less compressed codec than JVC or MP4, which makes it great for color gradings and editing. I'm going to swap it. I can go like to LT, I can use proxy, 422 HQ. Those are different flavors of compressions. Generally, I use the 422 for normal editing. But if I know that I'm going to do like a strong color gradings or maybe VFX, I will swap it to 422 HQ. Okay, now the one thing to know, I'm going to turn it off, sorry, and go back. The one thing to know about ProRes is it's a, like I said, much less compressed codec. So it's going to take tons of space. So if you have an iPhone, which is a 128 gig or 256, it's going to fill out your storage very quickly. So you won't be able to just keep those video clips on your iPhone all the time. So you should only use ProRes when you know that you're going to transfer those video clips to your Mac for further editing. Now, the thing about that is that also that a small caveat is that those files are so huge that transferring to the Mac can be quite cumbersome. You only have two ways of doing that. The number one is to airdrop those files, but sometimes it can fail and you have to start over. The second thing is to use the lightning cable plugged into your Mac, but that lightning cable is quite old and I think it's only USB 2.0, so it's also going to be very, very, very slow. So only shoot ProRes when you know you're going to need it. Otherwise, it's not really worth it on the iPhone 13 Pro and 14 Pro because of those like ways you have to bring those files to the Mac. It's quite cumbersome. Now, if you have an iPhone 15 Pro or 16 Pro and you have the USB-C with the Thunderbolt, it's much easier to transfer those files. And the last thing I want to show you is that now that I turned off ProRes, I'm going to go back to my color here. And I have more settings. I have wide P3, flat moment, and log moment. So those came out before the iPhone 15 Pro and Apple official log. Before that, all of those app, moment, Filmmaking, P3, they all came out with their own version of a log. They weren't true log, but they were like flatter color profile that allow you to further color grade them in post-productions. Now you have to keep in mind that those are in 8-bit on the moment app, whereas the standard Rec 709 and Rec 2020 are in 10-bit. So there are more color information into a 10-bit. So I would tend to stay away from those old log formats and just keep to the HDR Rec 2020 or the default Rec 709, and just you'll have a more of a baked look from the file, and you can only tweak so much in post-productions, but the color will be more true to life.
And iPhone 16 Pro, the most advanced iPhone we've ever made. Powered.
Although I love watching Apple keynotes and how they are improving their phone every year, I try to remember that last year, the iPhone 15 Pro was the best iPhone ever made.
These are the best iPhones we've ever made.
And the year before that, the iPhone 14 Pro was the best iPhone ever made.
This is the best iPhone we've ever created.
And the year before that, the iPhone 13 Pro was the best iPhone ever made.
These are the best iPhones we've ever created.
Look, all I'm saying is that of course this brand new phone is so much better than your current one, but it doesn't mean that you can no longer shoot with it. Now, there are some dead giveaways, but this video was entirely shot using this iPhone 10 and the iPhone 13 Pro as currently recording, with some of those accessories. This means that even today, my iPhone 13 Pro is a powerful tool to add to my filmmaking toolkit. You saw I was able to bring my iPhone inside the shower because it's such a smaller package than a cinema camera. Now, I rarely shoot in my shower, but if I wanted to, I could with the iPhone 13 Pro, whereas if I wanted to bring my R5C with a full rig, it would have been much more difficult to bring that into that shower. Like I said, it was less than a meter square. Same with the car footage. I could technically mount my R5C with a powerful suction cup into the car, but I would need those beefy suction cup. With the iPhone, I can simply use a smaller one, which is also cheaper, and I still get excellent shot with the iPhone 13 Pro if I have a VND filter, if I have a lens, to really beef up the quality of the iPhone footage. Now I get it, it's a lot of accessories for just a phone, but you don't need all of them. I think the essential would be this filter holder here, so you can attach any kind of filter directly onto your phone. Next, I think the other thing would be a microphone. A microphone is great to really get better audio from your iPhone. Whether it's this video micro here, so you can grab ambient sound, maybe dialogue if it's close to your subject, or grab one of those wireless Go so you can have a lav mic directly onto your talent, onto yourself. If you still have some budget, I would suggest to get one of those moment lens. You have the anamorphic, you have the 18mm wide, you have the 58 and plenty other that I don't own. But I think the best one is this 58. It's quite beefy. It's a focal length we no longer have on the iPhone. We go from the standard lens, which is a 24-26, up to the telephoto, which is 77mm. On the iPhone 15 Pro Max or 16 Pro, it's even larger. So with this 58, it sits right in between, and when mounted on the standard lens, it creates a nice shallow depth of field for an iPhone, I mean. So this is the lens to get, I would say. Now, don't forget to also grab this filter adapter so you can mount a filter on top of the lens to keep that shutter speed true. I will include links to all of those items in the description below. Those will be affiliate links, meaning that if you purchase an item through one of those links, I will get a small commission that greatly helps the channel, so thank you in advance. Also, this entire video was created using DehancerPro for DaVinci Resolve. And if you want to try it for yourself, I have a trial link in the description below. And if you like that software and want to buy it, you can use my coupon code RobinFernStudio for 10% off. And this is the end. If you made it this far, well, thank you for your support. And if you got something out of this video, please consider liking and subscribing so I can do more of those in the future. And I'll see you next time.